I had to first realize what I was doing that was giving you a negative about me, that I didn't love
Perception, yeah.
you or had no care about you. That for me was hard. I'm like, oh, how could that even happen? But I had to look at myself. Well, how have I been responding? How have I been available? How have I nurtured this relationship? Especially we're family, and to me, a family is should be a close relationship. I know it's not for everybody, and I'm still working on some of those areas of my family that have kind of slipped away. But I desire to have that closeness again. So that was the first thing, and that was me, because I get to control how I respond to my family members, the people that God has put around my life, my friends, my neighbors, whatever. So that's just about me. I can't expect everyone else to change so that
Right.
I can like them or interact with them or whatever. So that was the first thing, was figuring out how I was putting off a vibe that was not approachable. And that was hard for me to realize.
Oh, there we are.
Good morning, everybody. It's Monday again, and it's November. I'm one of your hosts, Tina Frank.
And I'm Bonnie Violet, and we're really glad that you all made it here this morning. And happy birthday, Tina. You celebrated your birthday over the weekend.
I did celebrate my birthday over the weekend. It was a lot of fun. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for someone to say, how old are you? No, just kidding.
Yeah, right. How is it having a birthday on Halloween?
After all this time, it's kind of non-eventful. I mean, as far as the Halloween part, I have such an amazing family. They always make me feel special and loved, both church family as well as my family. And so it was just it was fun. I was laughing with my husband because my first celebration for my birthday actually happened October 1st. So,
wow.
Yeah, I was laughing. I said, oh, honey, today's the last day of my birthday season.
Right.
So
I noticed some people do that. Some people have those birthdays that happen all month, whereas other people, you don't even hear about it. Like they didn't even know it happened.
But it's funny because I didn't plan anything. I just showed up to a place I was going with a couple of friends, and they're like, "Oh, we decided since this is the only time we're going to see each other in October that today's your birthday." And I'm like, "What?"
All right.
So like, okay. So
nice.
It was fun. So I am blessed. It's been an amazing month of October, and it was awesome to celebrate with my family out this weekend.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Great food, lots of laughter, just the way we like it.
Nice.
So, hey, Dwayne and I was having a conversation before my birthday on Friday. We were connecting, and it's really important for us to make sure that we are talking about things that might be something that you're interested in. Dwayne and I love to communicate together. We love to just, do life together. And we're really blessed to be able to do that. But something we were talking about on Friday was that we had invited all of you guys to come to the table for a conversation about being a Christian woman and a gay man coming together and having a conversation that is just kind of a reuniting of our family and the process that we've been through. And we dawned on us that there's a lot of steps to preparing a table for a conversation like this. And we feel like maybe we jumped ahead a few. So bear with me as I just kind of explain a little bit of the analogy to you, because we want you guys to be on the same page as us. Because, anytime you have a party or a conversation or even like a holiday dinner, there's a process that takes place. The first process is being able to send or receive an invitation. And all that happens way before you come to the table, you set the table, you eat together. And Dwayne and I got to thinking that we hadn't really talked well about that invitation process. We both had to be prepared to send as well as receive and accept the invitation from each one of us so that we could move forward in a relationship. So anyway, we thought we'd start there today. And if anyone has any comments, questions, we really, really want to have a conversation, not just between ourselves, but we want to share that conversation with you guys. And not to say that we know a whole lot about anything, but we know a few things about something that may just be enough to get you moving in the right direction.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So it's like, so what things did you need to do, Tina, to prepare? I guess to prepare. What kind of comes to mind for you?
You know, I had to kind of overcome some things that I had been taught, and maybe not even taught, maybe things that I just believed based on the culture that I was in. You know, for me, the church, and I say the church just because that's who I am. I'm the church now, or church lady now. But even in our little community where we grew up, there was no exposure to anything outside of folks like ourselves. And we had a definite idea about other folks that weren't like ourselves, not just gay folks, but other folks as well, you know, just because it wasn't the norm. So like any other normal human being, we create an opinion based on the things that we hear, the things that we see, the things that we're told, or the culture that we have around them. So when we got to this point, when, you know, being in Arizona, me being a single mom, you being a man of faith that had realized they were gay. We already talked about this, went into protection mode right away, but there was a lot of things that I was feeling at that moment. And when I realized that I had overcome some of these things, these thoughts I had, these ideas I had, these feelings that I had, and in that protection mode for you, I realized I didn't share that it was also a protection mode for me. Because, does that make sense? Because, well, if I can protect you from whatever the people around us, specifically in the church, might think, then I would be protecting myself also, because you and I were in community together.
Right.
You know, that was in a time where, and I'm just going to back up and be a little more vulnerable a little bit. This was a time in my life when I really was not doing the things that I should be doing to be classified as a perceived or a cookie cutter Christian. There were a lot of things in my life that weren't good, and I had stepped away from a lot of that. And when you came in originally, you were on fire for Jesus. And so for me, that was like, oh, it was kind of a re-nurturing of that thing that I had kind of let go and set aside. So when that re-nurturing happened, and you and I then had started on this journey together, it was like a whole new level of, I don't know, community, a whole new level of togetherness, because, you know, we're in a whole new place. We're in Arizona. We're no longer in Idaho. We're in a new space. We got new things happening around us. We're doing this together. So we started on this journey, and then when all this happened, the perception of all that stuff that I brought with me from Idaho hit. And I'm sure you were having a similar experience on your side, because we were neither one of us able to really talk about it in the moment.
Yeah. And I think for me, you know, I was going through it like on the inside. Like it wasn't something that was obvious maybe to some people that was going on for me, that I was, you know, because not long after I moved to Arizona, you know, I felt called to be in ministry and to be a youth pastor. And so I, you know, enrolled at Grand Canyon University. And so, yeah, I was definitely in a trajectory where, you know, like Christianity and even being a pastor and saving people for Jesus was like a really big part of my identity. And then once my sexual orientation kind of came into question, it really was, I didn't feel like I could hold them both at the same time.
Hey y'all, it's me again, Bonnie Violet. I just wanted to take a second and thank my Patreon members. Patreon members are folks who contribute on a monthly basis anywhere from $3 to $150 a month to support the work of a queer chaplain. Big shout out to Victoria Thompson, Jason Brandt, Brandon Stanton, Kim Silva, Brandy McCarg, Randy Sandknott, Bob Kaiser, Joey Heckmeister, Violet Rhiannon, Gabriel, Jonathan, Petrick, and Todd Atkins Whitley. Thank you so much for your continued contributions. And if you're interested in joining the Patreon, just check the link in the description. Go to patreon.com/Bonnie Violet. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I get it. And while you're managing that, I'm trying to manage how do I protect you, and then oh my gosh, how do I protect myself and my kids? And I don't even know what I was protecting us from. That's the thing. That's the thinking that I'm talking about. We try to protect ourselves from things that we really have no control over, that we really have no, I don't know what even to call it. I thought that it was not there were these harsh things that happened to people who hung out with people that weren't like us, be it gay or be it whatever, and that in that interpretation that gayness was a horrible thing, and you couldn't do that, and it was just all the things that I had in my mind, and I had to overcome those things in my mind. What does this really mean to me? And that was a process. At the beginning, the first thought was, oh my goodness, my life's about ready to change. Oh my goodness, Dwayne's life's about ready to change. I got to protect us from that change because it looked like a negative change at the moment. From the position that I was in, it looked like a negative change. And so I responded based on that initial moment. You responded based on your initial moment, and then I reiterated it with my response. And I think we were both moving in a place where we were, I was nervous, scared, not sure what was going to happen next. Not sure what I was ready for, this next thing that I thought could potentially be horrible. And so I think at that moment, I think for the easy road, at least for me, and I don't want to speak for you, was, okay, I'm just going to back off and just see what happens. I'm going to protect as much as I can, but I need to give some room here for you to do whatever it is you needed to do. Yeah. And try not to make it about me. And I apologize that I made it about me.
Yeah, I mean, you were such a hero to me, and like we had become really close, almost like friends there for a while, just before I like came out and was diagnosed with HIV, because my HIV diagnosis is what caused me to really come out of the closet. But like, I guess they were interconnected, but anywho, I don't know quite, but I was just really hurt. And I just couldn't go there. Like, I've always been one to kind of avoid pain and avoid hurt and that sort of thing. And so that's just what I did, was I just kind of stayed away because I just didn't know how to be. And then even for years after that, I just still thought that, you were trying to save me. Like trying to convert, like you love me, but you wanted to get me to Jesus, sort of thing, in some sort of like weird way. And so I always felt a little like not quite comfortable in that aspect. So I really had to do a lot of work on myself to be okay with that being the possibility, or it not being the possibility. And so for me, when we were talking, I was wondering, like, a big thing for me, because you and we did connect on, like, with our spirituality for so long. I feel like I maybe needed to come to my own understanding and my own like spiritual experience and connection before I could like be ready to even think about, hanging out with you again longer than maybe when I happened to see you at a family function or something like that. Right. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think there was that moment for both of us, I think, was a change of season and a shift. And I like to call that an opportunity for us to learn more about who we are and to learn more about who our God is. Because if we connect together so much that we lose our identity, in the other people around us, then we're not really being who God's called us to be.
Right.
As much as I'm created to do community and to have family and to be together, God each made us all uniquely still. And so he's going to separate us, and he's going to allow us to, I'm going to take that back. He will separate us for a season. But in this moment, I think this was something bigger than that. And I think that things happen to us for a reason, and it's how we respond to God that prepares us for that next thing. And I feel like it's so amazing to me because we didn't have any conversations. We just assumed. I assumed you were doing this and so, and doing this and so, and you assumed I was going to do this and so, and try to tell you have to come to Jesus and all this stuff. We were just assuming these things when we weren't having any conversation with one another.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I remember when I would be praying for you. And it had been a while because I went through a lot, and I'm sure you did. And we don't need to go through all those details here now between play by play. But I lost sight of my faith for a while after all that happened. And I got more introverted into myself here in Arizona, and less willing to participate in the family in Idaho. For a while, and so I had to have that space so that I could figure some stuff out. And it got to a point where I was so frustrated that I didn't have someone to be in community with. Now, when I say community, I mean someone that I can just be real with. I can have a conversation with. I can just be me. I had people around me all the time that I had to put on airs for or had to do whatever, but I just wanted someone that I could be me with. And so it took me a while. But as I started to lean more and more on who God was, once I realized, okay, that's the place I need to be, that's when my heart started to change. That's when I was able to hear God say, and these are going to sound harsh, and I hope you guys don't mind as those of you who love Jesus, because me and Jesus have some conversations. I talk to Jesus just like talking to you. I argue with Jesus about stuff, or just about things. I just talk. So I'm sorry if it comes across crass, but I just felt like the Spirit say to me, "How dare you have an opinion about something or someone that I created?" And I had never thought about that. Oh my gosh, how dare I? And just based on my own belief system, nobody else's. If I believe that every one of us are made in the image of God, how dare I have an opinion about it?
Right.
Who am I to have an opinion about it? My role is to embrace that person now, and to walk alongside and to love that person when God allows me to do that. So I really had to go through a process of understanding, okay, who am I? Because that's really the only thing I can change. Right. Who is it do I believe that God is for my life? What is the desire of my heart for the people that God has put around me? And those were some really hard questions that I had to ask of myself. And then once I answer them, and you know what? We all have Sunday school answers for some of this stuff. Come on. Stuff we've learned in Sunday school, stuff we've learned from culture, not just in the church application. I call it the Sunday school answer. The thing that we've been taught to believe, because we had it from day one. That's what caused some of the problem, was some of that thinking. And so as I was able to bring that up in my spirit and decide for myself and set some of that stuff aside. And I realized over time that, you know what, the only thing I really, really need to do is just to love people, allow them to be who they are. And when I'm asked, share my loving opinion in prayer. That's it.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you?
No, ask me whatever.
I know, prayer is such a big part of your life, and I was curious. I think some people might be able to identify with how did your prayers change? What was your prayers for me prior to you kind of having that conviction from God about questioning His creation? How did your prayers change?
Well, I've learned over the time that I need to not pray my agenda for the people that I love.
Do you have an
So,
example of that?
yeah, I do. Because based on my limited understanding of who God was and the culture that I was raised in, and the culture, I think, cultural things that still affect us day to day, I was praying that God would help you to not be gay.
Yeah.
I was praying that God would keep you safe. I was praying that He would send people around you that love Jesus, but I was praying that you would not be gay.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I've matured and I've understood and I realized that, you know what? Only God knows how He created us, why He created us, and the ultimate purpose. So why should I pray anything of my desire over your life? Because I believe that God can do anything in us or through us that's far more than I can ever think or imagine. So why would I limit your potential by praying what I can think or imagine?
Right.
So from that moment on, I went to my Bible and I just prayed scriptures over your life. And I still do that to this day.
Yeah.
And I just pray who God says that you are. I pray what the scripture says. I pray the things that I've seen in you, the things that you've asked me to pray for about you. I pray for all those things. I've given up praying my own agenda over people's lives because I am not the creator. I am not smart enough to know what God has for you. And I would never, ever want to be responsible for limiting the potential that God's put in you.
Right. How much do you think you're praying for me not to be gay or whatever? How much of that played into your expectation of kind of me, or thought of what I was going to become or how I was going to be in the world? Do you think that played at all into it?
No, because I really believe that you didn't know that you didn't know that this was, and so I always prayed protection over you because I wanted you to have a full and amazing life. I just realized that I needed you to have your own full amazing life, not the full amazing life I had envisioned for you.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So no, I don't feel like it at all that I did that, and I've never thought anything negative about or anything destructive about you. I was sad when I realized that you were having struggles with addiction, and so I prayed a lot for you in those areas once I knew, but I didn't know for a while. I'm afraid
Yeah.
because we weren't in relationship with one another, and had you not shared or someone shared with me, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. I mean, my recovery was something I think a lot of people in my family, they never saw that side of me. So
Yeah.
like, I know there are some people that I don't know that they really believe it. I mean, no one in my family has ever really asked me or talked with me about it.
Mm.
I remember my mom recently, like the last year or two, asking something about it, and everyone's been aware of it, and I've been like open about it. But yeah, I think most people didn't quite understand because I was just so far away, and I was just so
Yeah.
distant. But the reason why I think I asked the question about that thought of expectation, because I think that's what my experience was, is that I felt like, again, like I was falling short in all of the things that I thought God had created me to be. That there was just so much of that, and I never really I knew that God had me. I just didn't know how to deal with all that at the time. So I remember just kind of feeling like I'm going to put God on a shelf, and God's going to I'll pick that up later, and God knows where I'm at. God knows what's going on, and I'll be able to deal with that another time, and life, and then life continued and went on or whatever. And, a big part of, I think that loss of my spirituality, loss of perception of my life, caused me to start using drugs, which is interesting because the thing that brought me back to spirituality was my drug use.
Mm.
You know, it was,
Yeah.
you know, kind of what took me away, or what I left to. And I think that one of the things that became helpful for me, that choosing a spiritual way of getting sober was my solution. But I know a lot of people have different things. But I know for me, my biggest desire was, I didn't think God was accessible to me. And and I thought, if so, I would have to change so much about who I was. And seeing that there were people who were like myself, who had a relationship with God or a higher power, that sort of concept, it woke up something in me. And that's really what drove me to continue getting sober when I felt like it and I didn't want to, is I really wanted to try to have that spiritual life again. And I actually came to have a reliance on God that I'd never experienced before, before getting sober. And to this day, that's still kind of where I at, is I have a reliance on, you know, on a higher power. I don't know where I was going with all that, but
All good. It's all good. Go ahead.
No, I just was umming with space, I guess.
You know, God is so faithful to all of us, you know, and all those things that we experience, and God just wants us to lean on Him so we can navigate. So let me ask you, Dwayne. So what gave you what changed that you decided you wanted to reach out to all of us, your family? Prompted you to send us an invitation to get to know you again?
Well, I think I felt like I really wanted you in my life, and kind of like needed that. I think that's where it got to me, is one, to the place I think I was healed enough, and I had been in a space in which I felt like I could, you know, step into that. Like I could just show up as who I am, not feel like I have to deny any parts of myself in order to be in that space. But to also, I think, still be like, I had to also be willing to like let you do it wrong. In my point of view, like a lot of what I've been having to do now to invite other people to the table, or to receive an invitation to the table, is to kind of let go of that. Like, it has to happen this way, or it doesn't, it's not correct. It's not the right kind of love, or it's not at the right level, or they don't really see me, or that sort of thing. I've had to really kind of let go that need for approval from other people, even my family. And because I think it all starts for me with my higher power concept. You know, I believe like the more I see God, like the queerer and transer I become, like, and for me, that's part of like me being able to connect purely with me and God and co-create. Like this is the result of that. And this was something that was meant to be created a long time ago. And just wasn't at that place to do it. So I think, you know, me being able to have that relationship with God and know that God loves and accepts me as who I am, because God continues to create me as who I am, then it doesn't matter what all you think. And I don't necessarily need that approval, but there's still kind of that child in me that, you know, wants. Exactly.
Yeah. You know, expectation is something I think that we all do. We expect certain responses, we expect certain environments, we expect all these things, and an expectation of how people receive us. And I really feel like that's a giving up of control over who we are when we put those expectations in other people's hands. Right. Because unless we can do like you've done, Dwayne, and decide, you know what, I appreciate your expectation, but I'm not going to let it sway me, then I think we put ourselves in an opportunity to become a victim. You know, just like an example, if you're going into a room and you want to make a grand entrance or whatever, and it's not received, or you're wearing the same dress as someone else, all of a sudden you've got that expectation misblown. You're going to be, that expectation's gone, and how it manages us at that point, or how it affects us at that point. That's the growing part. That's the important part. That's the part that carries the substance. And I've had to learn that over time, and learning that over time I feel like gives me the confidence to be open, open to people, and to be open to say, you know what, I'm not sure what's happening with my nephew. I'm not sure what's going on in his life. I'm not sure. I saw him at whatever after so many years, and it was okay. We talked to each other briefly, whatever. But when finally the opportunity came for us to connect at a different level, rather than just a, hey, it's up kind of a level, right. I felt like that had to be okay with me. I had to be okay with you thinking whatever it is you thought about me. It didn't matter. Yeah. And I'm sure you had to take the same stance. You had to be okay with whatever I thought about you. It had to not matter and dictate your next,
right. And it did for a long time. So that's why I was just away. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I had to be able to do. And I remember like one time when I got a realization just before I had an opportunity. There was this guy, and he was walking cross country from Seattle to Washington, D.C. to bring in gender and sexual orientation discrimination. And he was walking from Boise to Twin Falls, which would take you right by where I grew up. And so I decided to walk with him. So I walked 130 miles from Boise to Twin Falls. And as I started getting into Hagerman is where I went to church. Hagerman is where I went fishing with my dad at times. I hit Bliss before that. And so I started to come across these places and these landmarks and these situations that I had experienced at one time in my life. And now, as I was starting to go through, I saw like farmers markets, and I just saw that change had happened, that like things that I thought or saw as like progressive, if you will, or some sort of growth, was all around there. And so I think for me, that opened up the idea that maybe then the people have changed too, because I was realizing that one, like when you leave, for me, when I left people, they stayed who they were from the perception that I had at that time of my life. And whenever I would go back to them, I was that person again. In my mind, I felt like that's how they saw me. And so it was almost like I was stuck in this space. And it got to where going home, I got resentful because I just felt like I would go into this default mode that it wasn't me anymore. And the reality was it's not them either. And so I think I've had to get past, and it's not even past, because it become aware of like myself and my stuff, so that I could then see also that other people maybe have their own like fears or those sorts of things as well. So I think that was one thing that was a great visual of kind of starting to see that there might be change.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It's easy for us to get caught up in the lies that we're told in our spirit. Like the lie that because I'm a Christian, I don't love people. I have a set of rules I have to live by, and if you don't live by those rules, then I can't love you. That's a lie, because that's not who I am. That's not how God created me to be. That may be who I was. Because where do we start? We start with the rule book, and then we move forward, right? That's how it's been since the beginning of time. And that's why I think it's important that we really get out and experience life in our own perspective. We need to be careful, because we don't want to get caught up on things that are going to steal from us, things that are going to lie to us, and things that are going to keep us from those opportunities to connect or reconnect. I mean, could you imagine had we not decided to reconnect?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah.
I know. I can't even imagine.
And
I can't imagine not talking to you every week and hearing about all the amazing things that's happening in your life and sharing some of the crazy things that's happening in my. I can't even imagine.
yeah. Well, and it was, like, to be honest, it was really unexpected. I didn't plan on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I had a desire, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really do anything for it until, we had that interaction, when I went to Arizona a couple of years ago. But before that, I had kind of just, I think, given up. I don't know. It just, it wasn't like I went there that weekend to try to like start a relationship with you. In some ways, I just wanted to be able to be comfortable with you, or, you know what I mean? Versus like trying to like rekindle something. I mean, I feel like that's something that's developed because we've made the decision to continue to kind of like, stay in communication with each other.
Right, right. I see. For me, I felt like things started to shift, and I know you don't even remember this conversation because you told me you don't remember um, when we were at the airport in Idaho. We were both flying out. I think you were living in Chicago at the time. You were flying
Probably.
out, and I was flying back to Arizona. And I think I gave you a ride to the airport, or we were at the airport for an hour or something before one of our flights left. And we sat there in the little bar there and had a bite to eat and talked. And for me, I was like, some of the things are I was carrying around with me, the unknowing was put at ease. It's like this is what it's supposed to be like. So at that point, I continued to pray for you, probably more often because you were able to come into my heart more often. And so I really feel like over time, as I've prayed for you, and I'm sure you've had moments of thinking of us. If you don't want to, if I don't know about you, what your prayer life has been, but I think those are the connection points that eventually find their way to one another.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I prayed for people who I knew were okay with prayer. I don't, and then I would light candles in my own little ways for people, but that's kind of how I, began kind of having some sort of a prayer life or whatever. I think sometimes I've seen prayer used as a weapon,
Really?
like public praying, I guess.
Yeah.
I had a situation where I
Not
went to
fair.
this, yeah, like I went to some space and there was like this thing, and like there were politicians there, and the politicians weren't in alignment with something, and so they all like decided to lay hands and pray for that person right there. And I was just like, did that person even want? Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like it felt a little violent. And so like ever since that point, I've been just really mindful about like prayer. I'm like, would this person be okay with me praying for them? Or even I'll even just ask people, hey,
Is
are
that
you comfortable?
public prayer or prayer in general?
Just in general.
Ah,
In general. Yeah. Um, yeah. I just feel more comfortable with that, at least at this point in time in my life.
that's cool. Well, full disclosure, I pray for everybody. I don't ask permission.
Right.
So just know that there's a possibility that I
Yeah.
pray for you.
I know that you're praying for me, and I love that you're praying for me, and I love that people pray for me. Don't get me wrong. Like,
Oh, no,
I'm really cool with it, but I know that some people might not be. So,
I get it. I'm just telling everybody that's listening to us or listening to this podcast that I'm probably praying for you. And I'm sorry if I didn't ask permission, but I'm not going to stop because I care about what's happening to you. And so I'm going to pray as much as I can.
yeah, some of the things that's been kind of like coming up for me today while we're talking, and I just like in this idea of like, how can we like be ready to be in relationship with each other, and kind of that expectation is, I think I've had to really let go of, and I've kind of had a conflict with like some of the language. Like I feel like we both use different words for different things. And like, I have to be willing to, I did, and I still have to be willing to kind of like hear words or language said in a way that I have learned, or I have come to believe or think differently about, but cannot let that take away from me knowing the intent of the person that I'm in conversation with. Okay. If that makes sense. So I think being afraid of, like, I remember, I won't necessarily say the person, but I remember there was somebody really important in my life, and I really wanted them to come to the Forever Red events. We used to have the big galas for the organization Alpha once a year, and a lot of my family members would come up and get all dressed up, and it was like this great time. And I remember there was one person that I really wanted to go there who really never really went. And I was able to actually have a conversation with this person because I kind of just thought this person was, I don't know, like, just not being nice. Like, I probably used a few colorful words about that person in relation to this particular thing. But I remember having a conversation with them, and they said, I'm just I would love to go and I want to go, but I'm just afraid that I'm going to say something wrong or do something wrong that's going to offend your friends or make you look bad or like whatever. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I just don't go. And I was like, and I could connect with that. I was like, oh my God, so you're not like this big jerk. Like, you were just afraid of like actually causing harm. You know what I mean? Like, and so like I could relate to that. And I was like, like, I'm like, my friends, like, we're all used to being called all kinds of things. So like, we're okay with that. And you're like this person in my life, like, and they know that, like, there's not anything that you're going to be able to say or do that's going to be like hurtful to them. And I feel like that's something that I kind of even like, I feel like people have the fear, and I think mm-hmm. you're okay with me sharing this, but you've said you were afraid of maybe saying the wrong things mm-hmm. In our conversations, as far as like, whether it's around like, like I don't identify as a gay man anymore. I don't identify as Dwayne. So Bonnie Violet is just who I am all the time. Like, and you like, and I have to be okay that that's a process for people to get to that space with me. I haven't been able to share that with everyone either. And so I think those are some of the things that I've been having to kind of figure out exactly, and like how important it is to me. And do I need to correct, like, because I think there's a space of changing and coming to know, but eventually there has to be kind of an agreement on things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And you got to remember, when you put things out there like that, sometimes it's easier for people just not to address it, or to just, like your friend or like we do. Okay, mm-hmm. I don't know how to respond or how to act. I have no desire to offend this person, so I just won't interact.
Yeah.
And so we just have to always be conscious of that.
Yep. No, that's what I mean. I mean, I think from my point of view, I can just be thinking like, maybe they just don't know. They just don't know.
Yeah. And there's a lot I don't know, just so you know.
Oh, well, and there's plenty that I don't either. And there are plenty of things that I've learned that's not helpful either. Yeah. So it's just about being able to be really honest with myself. And I'm also like a big people pleaser, and I want to be nice, and I want to be kind, and I want to think the best of people always. I don't always feel that way. And if I'm honest with myself, think that way. But, that's how I want to be. And so, but sometimes I have to be mindful about how important it is for me to be seen a certain way, while also allowing somebody the grace to come to that, because it's taken me a while. It's taken me a while to get here.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing that you bring up, because for us to move forward, we have to be willing to sacrifice. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what you're talking about. We're sacrificing our perspective, maybe an emotional response, maybe a space we want to be in. I'm willing to sacrifice that if it means that you and I can be in relationship together for now, for a season. I'm willing to sacrifice and be willing. If you want to look at me in a different perspective or only see me in a limited capacity from what you've known before, I'm willing to allow you to do that. I'm willing to sacrifice that part of myself so that you can do that and I can bring you along with me. That's an act of love.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we don't do enough of, not just in the church, but in the world as we live it.
Yeah.
We're so busy wanting to be respected and wanting to be this, that, or honored for this, or recognized for this, or whatever it is, that we just need to be willing to surrender up some of that stuff so that people can be in communication with us, and life with us. So anyway, that's a good share. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no problem. And we did get a comment from a regular listener, Kim, and she says, I've been realizing that in myself that I continue to call you Dwayne, but truly it's out of habit. I have to remind myself that it's Bonnie and also the pronoun of she. If I mess up now and then, I apologize. Totally not intentional, my lovely friend. And I know that, Kim, and I know that it's, honestly, it just hasn't even been really that clear. I think that that's my expectation and that's where I'm at. Because I have been pretty loosey-goosey about it. The reality is I've had she pronouns for at least 6 years now. But those are things that I haven't had conversations with people about, partially because it's for me and it's for me and my closest friends, like those in my closest circle. Because I think I was afraid. I'm still afraid somewhat of how people are going to respond to it, partially just because I'm still coming to know myself more and more every day. So don't feel bad about it. I know that it's a process for all of us in kind of figuring out where that goes. And I think it's even more confusing potentially for people because I'm Bonnie Violet in drag, which this is me in drag. This isn't like me as Bonnie Violet on Monday. Well, it is Monday, but going to the coffee shop or whatever, And so, and I'm more in the non-binary kind of space. But anyway, that's a whole lot of conversation. But I think language and being, again, not assuming the worst in something and being able to potentially let it go, but then also maybe at some point revisit that conversation. I don't know. I'm just coming to realize some of this right now. I wasn't caring as much, and all of a sudden I am. It lands on me differently than what it used to. And so so I'm
it's okay.
It's okay. A little emotional, but it's okay. I can't explain why it's that way. I just know that it is. I know that when I hear somebody call me she and call me Bonnie Violet, it lifts my spirit. When I hear other than that, it doesn't feel the same. And for whatever reason it doesn't. And I was not planning on going here, but it just kept, when we were talking, it just kept coming up and coming up and coming up in my head. And I was just maybe I'm just supposed to say it out loud. Because part of the thing is I'm battling with this with myself. I'm not sharing it. So if I'm not sharing it, then how am I going to expect the people around me to really get it,
Yeah. Well, I will do my best to figure that out. It's just, I've known you since you were a baby. So.
I know, and I don't want anyone to feel bad about it. And I think it's also difficult for us when we're talking about past times. In my past, in those moments, I was Dwayne and I was he and I was a gay man and, those sorts of things. So I think that's also becomes a little like can be confusing. Because it's also important to be able to, I think, speak to those parts as well. So I wasn't saying it to make anyone feel like to call anyone out. I guess I was just feeling it in the moment. And for whatever reason, it just was on my heart or mind to say something. Yeah.
It's fine. Don't apologize. It's fine.
Kim has another comment. Are you able to read it?
Yeah. Kimberly says, I love that you're just being authentic and sharing this journey. I hope by you sharing your own feelings, it will inspire others on both sides. I love you, my sweet friend, and no matter what labels we attach to ourselves, you are amazing and loved. And I can see how much Tina loves you through her words and actions. Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. And yeah, I like the idea that you said labels too, because like a big part of my journey is like, I want to know and feel that I'm whole.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that for me, my process to wholeness has been living in identities, living within labels that separate me from that wholeness. Right. And so, and part of it might be, I might be able to have, like, I'm having an experience with my whole self, like, but the challenge is when the people outside of me, like, how do I have a whole self, I guess, experience with people as well? And I think that's where I'm trying to like figure out, yeah. So maybe that's part of the question is that, we got to be good with us before we can really like receive an invitation to go to the table.
Yeah. And we have to be willing to sacrifice and be vulnerable. You have to be willing to sacrifice some of those things so that people can find a connection point. And I think that's what you're doing and what you've done.
Yeah.
And all of us, and I think that continues to be an opportunity for us to continue to surrender ourselves, to continue to submit ourselves to the people around us that we love. I don't want to be the person that everyone's so uncomfortable with that they're not going to be able to say something right or do something right or whatever, that I'm not going to get to have coffee with them or be invited, or when I am, that everyone's just on pins and needles. And I don't want to be that person. I am willing to set aside some of those things so that I can interact with the people that I love and to have an opportunity to do life with them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what it is. It's I daily have to remind myself that, it's not about me.
Right.
I want to be an enhancement to someone else's life. I want to bring beauty and joy and peace and love and compassion and truth into the life of those people around me. To do that, I can't do that if I'm only thinking about how things make me feel or how people respond to me. So I don't want to be weighed down with all that stuff. Yeah. I just want to be able to move into a space and be open enough so that people can approach, and when they do, feel better for it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I feel like there's probably like, I feel like I've probably created that for people where they are afraid to kind of reach out to me in some way or whatever. But like, I want to just say it out loud.
Oh, you.
That I'm ready to receive invitations to the table.
Amen. I think so too.
And I don't know that I'm as ready to send the invitation.
Okay.
And I think part of that for me is I don't know that I've seen the cues on the other side. Does that make sense? Like, and I'm not necessarily speaking with you. I think you and we got this, but there are still people in my life that I'm not in relationship in a way that I would love to be. Maybe that's for you too, but that's kind of where I'm at. And so I'm ready to receive those invitations. Like, I think I would just fucking show up anywhere. That's not to say I wouldn't be like nervous and I wouldn't question like,
right.
How do I show up? Like what? Because there are so much parts about me that's not I recently got asked to say the prayer at my cousin's funeral, which like it was one of the most sweetest, beautiful things that I was asked to do, but I was petrified about like, how do I show up? People don't know me as Bonnie Violet. They don't know me in this way. How can I still show up in a way that feels good on me, but also doesn't make it about me? Because a funeral is not about me in no way, and I didn't want to make it about me in any way at all. So it was, luckily, I was able to do it over the phone, but like, like it worked out, fine. But, those are the things that, sometimes I wish I didn't feel the way I felt and think the way that I think and be afraid of the things that I'm afraid of. But at some point I just have to like recognize and acknowledge that that's what's going on so that I can let go of it. Like for me, that's what I try to give to God. Right. So that I can, just move forward so that it's not all about me. And, because it's way too much about about me in my mind and in my life.
I think we're all like that because it's all about our ways.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead and read from Kimberly.
All right. So Kimberly says, we are always evolving. It is what we are meant to do here. Our journeys may look different, but we are like a caterpillar evolving into a beautiful butterfly. Dwayne has evolved into Bonnie, and that is just a beautiful part of this crazy life process. Tina is working to become the best self she can, loving unconditionally. I too am on a spiritual journey. I'm just so glad we are all doing this together on this planet at the same time.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Kimberly.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. So, how are you feeling, Tina?
I'm feeling just fine. And I appreciate you being open and honest, because I think that's where real growth happens for both of us. And hopefully for some of the folks listening to us. Because these are real conversations. And I don't want you guys to think that we're always sweet and loving and pleasant. There are days when we are not. You guys just don't get to see those days.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
you
think
get to see the fruit of those days.
Yeah, definitely.
You and I've never really had a huge knockdown, drag out of any kind.
No.
But, yeah.
But it doesn't mean we haven't had some like uncomfortable moments.
That's true. That's true.
But I think a lot of it is just our inability to just say what, like our inability to just like say it. For fear of, again, I think like for fear of causing some sort of like throwing some sort of wrench into the mix. And so I know that I want to be able to bring all of myself wherever I go. And I just have to, I'm the one who has to continue to do that as well, because sometimes I don't. And then I get mad that my whole self isn't there.
Yeah. I think we all struggle with that. It just looks different physically on all of us. We all need to show up completely, and we all need to be able to work past what other people are thinking about us. Easier said than done, I know. And we also need to give people room to be who they are as well. It's when my persona wants to overcome your persona, that's when we have a problem.
Yeah.
And we all need to learn to be together, love one another, respect one another. And you know what? That's it. That's it. We're all on our own journey. We're all destined for greatness, and that's going to look different for each one of us.
Yes. Well, we're at like, I think right at our time to say goodbye.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think it's, right?
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Kimberly has another comment to what you just said. Yep, I do that too. Why do we do that? Tina is so right. We must give each other grace in this. Definitely.
Yeah. I don't know why we do that, but if we did, that would be nice.
Right. Sometimes knowing the why doesn't always help, though.
That's true. That's true.
For sure. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And, the last few weeks, for folks who are new, may not know, we're here every Monday at 10:30 in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. You can also download our episodes on podcasts. So wherever you listen to a podcast, search for Splendid Grace and you'll find us. You can also watch us on YouTube if you like at A Queer Chaplain. And you also could support the not only the podcast, but with the Queer Chaplain, with the work that I'm working on trying to do outside of this. There's a Patreon that you can check out as well too, and kind of become a member and help, encourage this process in some way. I still don't know how to bring all that stuff up. I feel like I hear it in all the podcasts and that sort of stuff. I'm like, okay, we're supposed to say these things.
Yeah. It's all good.
But anyway, thanks for joining us, and thank you, Tina, for showing up again today.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. I'm blessed to be a part of this process, Dwayne. Thank you for including me.
For sure. All right.
So this I'm supposed to say, everybody like and subscribe. Is that what I'm supposed to say?
There you go. Yep. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, all of that stuff.
All right. Awesome. All right. Everyone have a wonderful week, and we'll see you back here next week on Splintered Grace.
All right. Bye-bye. And I'll play our little outro.
Splintered Grace Podcast is brought to you by A Queer Chaplain. Follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at A Queer Chaplain. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, comment, like, and share. Feel free to tip us at Venmo, Bonnie Violet, and support monthly on Patreon. The song is original by Steven Sandnoff, The Chasm Between Us. Rest in peace, Steven.
Oops, it's being slow.
Hey, how's it going? Bonnie Violet here. I'm a trans femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, and digital chaplain. And in case you didn't know, I could really use your support. Engage, rate, subscribe, follow, comment, share this episode, book me to keynote, panel, guest on your show, or officiate your wedding or memorial, in or out of drag, collaborate, join the team, be a guest, make a pitch, sponsor an episode, join my Patreon, send me a tip on Venmo or PayPal. Just do something. Thank you so much for your continued support. Check out the links in the description.